What's up, guys? Today I'm going to do a tutorial on how to play Out of Tune by the Backseat Lovers. First, I'm going to teach the acoustic part, which is mainly just the chords, and then I'm going to teach the electric part, which has the little lead lines throughout, and the intro is also from electric. So let's get straight to it. So the acoustic part starts right after the electric part does the like. And then the electric part will start picking up. And then that's when you kind of join with some strums. This is an A major 7th chord. And then you go to an A7. All you do is just lift your finger there quickly, and then back to your A major 7th. And then hit an E chord. All your containers fill in my past. Then you're gonna go to an F sharp minor chord, but you're gonna play it with the, I'm missing an E string right now, but the B and E would be open, so, and the E string there too. So we have right now, all your containers that I fill with my past, you can find them on this under my breath. Then you're gonna go to an A, which is just up here on the 9th. Just play a regular A shape, but don't bar it. So leave the others open. And then you start strumming on this. And then go back to your E. And on those like transitions, you can kind of do that little quick strum there. Kind of like that. But that's the chords for the verse. So it's E, F sharp, minor, A, and then back to E. And then you'll hit a verse where it starts to, like, you'll hear like the palm muting. And so for that, you kind of just play the chords, but kind of just the bass notes and palm mute. And then you play it again. Start opening up on this chord, and then back to your regular strumming pattern. And then it's going to go to the You made me who I am. So what that is you're going to go to your A major 7th again. You made me who I am. One beat, and then you start. And then you're going to bring this shape up to the 11th fret. So the same higher shape, you're sliding it up. And so this is like a D major 7th, but you don't play the here. You leave that A string open. And then you shift it up 2 more frets, 1, 2. And this is an E major 7th. And then you go to an E to start the chorus. So how that goes is, you made me who I am. And then you go into the first chorus. The chords of the chorus is going to be E. And then you're going to go to a G sharp minor. You play it the same as the F sharp minor chord, except slide it up 2 frets to a G sharp. So it's E, and then G sharp minor, and then F sharp minor, and then you play that little shape for your A major 7th up on the D again, and then you play your E major 7th. So for the first chorus, you do like offbeat strums, so the downbeat's gonna go boom. So you hit every single same one 4 times, except for those last 2. You just hit them both twice. And then you do that all again. And then the last one, you let it ring. They're always out of tune. Then you hit the little interlude part, and that's just going back and forth from the E major to an A major 7. Back into the verse. For that one, you do a little hit, and then it'll go to the back into it. And then the next verse is the exact same. And then you're gonna go to the "You made me who I am," and instead of doing one, "You made me who," you're gonna go, "You made me who I am." Same chords as the other time. You're just strumming out that beforehand, and then you go into the chorus, but this time you just strum everything. So the G sharp minor, F sharp minor, D minor 7, D major 7, sorry, E major 7, back to your E. So sometimes they decide to do that. You go from your G sharp minor, and then you just bring the shape down 1 fret, and then go down to your F sharp minor. So it's basically like a G sharp minor to a G minor to an F sharp minor. So what that sounds like again is G sharp, G, F sharp. So you play that through twice, and then you do an outro, and the outro is the same exact chords. You can do the little walk down for the outro. You can kind of put it anywhere you want in the song. And so then on the last one, at the end of the song, you go from your F sharp to your D major 7th, and you just kind of strum these out. And then you play this E chord. You basically take your E major 7th and take your ring finger and put it on the fret, the 13th fret on the A string, and then you play all the strings. And then that's the chord that ends the song. So yeah, that's the guitar part, the acoustic guitar part for playing out of tune. Now let's go on to the electric guitar part. All right, now on to the electric. I forgot to mention, the cape is on the 4th fret, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so first off, I'm gonna teach you the intro. So you're gonna do a D major 7th chord, but without the bar part. So you just need these 3 fingers. It's the same shape as like an A major 7th down here. Just slide it up to the 11th fret, and you just do down, up, and then you play an E major 7th. So shift that up 2 frets, and then do the same thing. Just 1 quick hit. So what we have, and then do it again. And then you're gonna play another E chord. I don't know the name of it exactly, but you're just gonna take this ring finger and put it on the 11th fret or the 13th fret of the A string, and then play all the strings but the high E. And then you're gonna play through that again. So, and then here's where it changes. You're gonna do a little. So that's just 10, 11, 11 on the top 3 strings, and then you do the down this one again. So everything we have for the intro so far. here's where the tricky part begins. So once you hit your E chord there, then you start on the low E string, and then you play this part. So what that is you're doing an A major 7th chord. Here's what it sounds like. So what that is you go A, D, A, G, D, A, B, D, A, G, D, A. So A, D, A, G, D, A, B, D, A, G, D, A. And then you play that again. So. And then you play that pattern a couple more times. And then on the part where it starts. So what that is you go D, A, G, B, G, and then A, G, B, A, G, B, A, G, B, and you just start increasing the speed. And then you basically just start strumming all of them up and down. And then you start strumming. And then you go from an A major 7th to an A7 by just taking your first finger off. And then back to an A major 7th. And then finish off with an E major chord. And just hit it quickly. And then that's where it is. All you can say is that I fell in my past. You can find them on the 17 under my back. So you can play the F sharp minor chord, and that's just an F sharp minor but without the bar. So you have the high, the B and the E open. Everything else is, so these two are open. And so then you have the little lick after that. And so that's going to be the main lick for the verses. So the first one is 16, 15, 16, 13, 15, 13. So 16 on the E, 15 on the E, and then 16 on the B, 13 on the B, 15 on the G, 13 on the G. So the first one, so after that, then you start to go into the main verse. So the first lick you'll do is very similar to the other one you just learned. It's basically just this. So 16, 15 on the E, 16 on the B, 14 on the B. And you play that one a bit. And then you play the one we learned earlier. And then eventually you'll get to the part where it starts palm muting. So the other guitar will. And what you're going to do for that is you're going to alternate picking on the A and E and the A string with your first finger on the 2nd fret of the A. Palm muted, sorry. And then shift this up to the 4th fret. And then you're going to go down to the 2nd fret on the D string, and then do the A and the D. So then you start doing that. So that's just a hammer-on pull-off on the D string going up to the 4th fret. And then after that, you go down back to the, do the 2nd fret. And then you go 4, 2, 4, 2. And then you play the hard part. Okay, I'm gonna really try to explain the so you do so that's what it sounds like slow. So you go from 11th fret. I'm just using these not relative to the capo. I can't do that math. So 11, 10, 8, 6, 4, which is the open string, and then on the 7th fret there. So you just play it, bend it, pull it off. So now for the little strumming, which is difficult. It's really hard to explain. Yeah, so you kind of just like go like your hand's moving the whole time. It's just the first one you have to do the little fast drum. And you kind of emphasize whenever you dun 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 dun. So that's the best way I can explain it. I think you kind of just have to practice it, figure it out. Practice it for yourself and figure it out for yourself, but it's my attempt of trying to explain it. It's a difficult part to explain. Then once after you do that hard part, you go back to, it's just the 2nd fret on the A, and then you go back to the, start making them open. Then once you get to the A, once you would transition to the A, right? So then you kind of start improvising on the pentatonic scale here. So you kind of just do whatever you want for that part. I kind of do something like that. You can kind of just make it your own, do whatever part you want to play. But then it'll go to the you made me who I am. So for that part, you go to an A major 7th, and then you wait a beat, and then you go up to that D major 7th on the 11th fret, and then it goes into the but this guitar has a different part. So that's the little lick you play with throughout. So what that is you you slide up from the 8th fret to the 10th fret, and then this is on the G string, and then play 8, and then play 10 on the D, and then 8, and then 11, and then 8 on the A string. You play it twice, so. And then you can kind of do a little, if you want, so slide down to the 6th fret, if you would like. I kind of do it at the end. You end up playing the pattern twice, and so on the last one I like to do the, because that's the same point when the guitar goes. They were always out of tune. And so then you go to the next part, which is the interlude part, which there's 2 guitars going on at the same time. There's one that's kind of going. So that's one of the guitar parts, and the other one is kind of just doing stuff on the pentatonics. Stuff like that. So I kind of mix and match, and I start by playing the, so what that is that's on the 6th or the 8th fret, play 10. This is on the D string, and then on the A string play 11, and then play 10, and then 11, and then you just keep playing that. back to the verse where you go to those parts again during the verses. The other part is just like playing on the pentatonic scale. Just stuff on that scale right there. So you can kind of mix and match those parts, make it your own for that part. And then it goes into the verses again, and you play the same part. Oops, messed up there a little bit, but you get the gist. It's the same thing. And then you get into the you made me. So that's the same part as the, but this time you're strumming it. And then now you go into the chorus, and you can strum along with the acoustic guitar for this part because there isn't really a electric guitar part for it. So what it is just going to be E major chord. Then you're going to go to a G sharp minor chord, but you're going to leave the B and the E open, so you play it like. And then you play an F sharp minor with that same shape, so you just slide it down 2 frets. And then you play that D major 7th, and that E major 7th, and then back to your E. So that's for the chorus, and you can just strum it. So you can also play that part if you like. That's a G sharp minor. And you just go down 1 fret to a G minor, and then F sharp minor. And then back to your D major 7th, E major 7th. And then it's gonna go to the outro, and the outro sounds like. That's what the outro sounds like for the electric guitar, and that's similar to the part we played in the chorus. So you do slide up from 8 to 10, sorry, on the G string, 8 on the G string, 10 on the D, 8 on the D. And then here's where it changes. So what you do is you slide up from the 8 to the 10, and then 9 on the B string, and alternate between those two for a bit. And then hit it twice, and then bend up on the 11th fret. So that part again. And then for the next part, so you do one that sounds like this, and the rest that sound normal. So that one part that's different at the beginning of that one is slide up from 8 to 10, and then do 9 on the B, and then 10 on the D, 8. So instead of going, you do. And then after you do that last, then you slide up to your D major 7th and strum it slowly, and then strum the E major 7th. And then you go to that chord from the intro. And that's how you end the song. So that part all together sounds like this. And there you go. You've learned all of Out of Tune by the Backseat Lovers. So I hope you guys enjoyed playing this song, and I'll see you in the next one.